Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Erasmus Expeditions. We are here with session number 37 of our Beneath the Banner Shadow campaign. This is a Dungeons and Dragons 5e campaign that takes place in the world of Rostveen. In particular, this campaign takes place in a kingdom known as Vykaril, which is heavily based on Arthurian myth and English and German folklore. And we've been playing this game as of next month for 4 years. This has been amazing. By far the longest campaign that I have ever run. I think it's probably the longest single storyline that I've ever played through in D&D. So yeah, I'm really eager to. I'm not going to say it. The next 4 years. That's too long, but we'll see. These things happen. So before we get started, I do want to say a massive thank you to the two artists who have helped kind of bring this game to life. The first of which is Rachel Ayres. She is the artist who designed most of the house shields that you'll see throughout the campaign. Was a fantastic artist to work with and did an outstanding job. The other is, and I keep forgetting to write his name down, it's Augusto, thank you. An artist that Steve hired to do the art for the PCs that you see now decorating their windows on the overlay. Also, incredible work, and it's really awesome to see these characters brought to life in a visual way. So yeah, thank you to both of those artists. Let's see, what else? Yes, the same warning that I give at the beginning of all of my games, and that is, if foul language and mature subject matter and immature humor are things that bother you, then I don't know how you found yourself in this corner of the internet, but you should really turn around. But if you are an adult, or you have a signed permission slip from your parents, then please proceed. Particularly, I'm going to go ahead and give an additional warning on this session and likely to go forward for the next several sessions. In light of recent events over the last several years with the COVID pandemic, we are headed into lands that are literally being ravaged by plague. So there's a good chance that this might hit close to home for some people. Please know that we're not going to be taking this subject matter lightly, that it will be handled with respect, but still, if this is something that might affect you in a negative way, then maybe skip ahead a few sessions. With that being said, I'm going to pass things over to my players so that they can introduce themselves, tell you where you might be able to find them on the internet and what they might have going on project-wise, and then I think we're going to get started. So we're going to start with Baron.
Hello, everybody. I play Masakatord, a complex individual of feelings and emotions and turmoil, and he's a good old time. You really can't find me online, but lately I've been making maps and fucking around with world building and really just doing what I have fun doing. So other than that, I'm ready to get back into the fray and battle with my companions against this horrific contagion.
Or possibly just battle against your companions. I mean, we have options here.
No, John's going to be gone, it seems. So I'm not going to. Ari will try to fight me, perhaps.
It's likely, at least with words. Excellent. Speaking of Ari and cutting people apart with words, Karen.
Hello, everyone. I'm Karen, also known as Myth and Gears on the socials. Not doing too much. Pretty not active right now. Had to take a step back for a little bit, but come fall, maybe I can get back into it. If I'm not here, I'm on Channel Mini Terrain Domain and Dice on Ice, or place more fun games. Things are about to start up, and I am so excited. Tonight, I get to play Ariana, the I guess sassy sometimes elf of the party. I mean, who knew? And I can't wait to jump back into this and experience more woe and sadness, even though those are the same thing.
Sadness is not on the tagline. It's woe, fealty, and courage. So I mean, yes, maybe there's some sadness, but that's kind of, covered by woe. At least that's what our lawyers say. Excellent. So speaking of that's what our lawyers say, it's Josh's turn. I still don't know what they meant by that, but hey, Josh, it's your turn.
I guess Eddard could be a lawyer if you wanted to. Hi, everybody. My name is Josh. Tonight I'm going to be playing Lord Eddard Baindrake. I'm not doing too much online nowadays, especially now when it comes to D&D. But I did just shoot over a link to Jeremy. A tape just dropped, a rap/hip-hop tape made by my buddy Dylan, where I produced the entire thing. I believe it's 9 tracks long. So all the beats on it are made by me. Sent him the link, so check that out if you're a fan of rap or hip-hop music. When it comes to D&D, this is pretty much the only game I've been playing for the past several years, and I couldn't ask for a better group of folks to be playing with. I am incredibly honored to be here. 4 years, man, the time has flown by. This game has seen me through 2 children in real life almost. So it's kind of crazy when you think about it. But yeah, just happy to be here. Glad to be here with all of y'all. So let's get into it.
Absolutely. And a massive congratulations, Josh. Hopefully, like we were talking about before we went live, hopefully we can squeeze in another session before your family expands. But if not, then we'll catch you when we catch you. And again, congratulations. All right. Last but certainly not least, we have Steve.
And maybe slightly least, right? Slightly.
It's really just a matter of less of you.
Right. So I have the pleasure of playing from a potato tonight. I moved and have not hooked up my regular computer. So this is a laptop from 8 years ago. I literally turned it on. I thought that was 2020. So, but yeah, glad to be here. Glad you're playing. And it's been a while. And as far as online, the only thing I do online recently is this and try and talk Karen into playing something else. That's literally what I spend my day doing, is talking to Karen about playing other games.
Yeah, that's a conversation.
9 days, and I am through all of my training, and I will be officially sworn and certified. So,
congratulations, man! That's awesome.
2 years in the making. So that's
yeah. I was gonna say it's been a hell of a road, for sure. That's amazing. Congratulations, Steve. Sincerely. Also, yes, the conversation that you're talking about having with Karen, that is something that I know at least Baron and I have been trying to get her to do as well. Run more games, Karen. Now it's on tape. Whoa, I just dated myself a little there. Sorry. Blow the dust off.
It's on the 8 tracks.
Be kind, please rewind.
Oh, man. Now you know what you're getting yourself into, folks. So, yeah, I think that's everything that we need to cover on before we can get started. Everybody ready? Anybody have any questions before we do this? All right.
Can we start now?
There it is.
After this recording, you can get this game at your local Blockbuster off the show. So just be sure to pass by.
Grab 3 sessions and a pack of Reese's Pieces.
There should be a coupon out in the mail for a free popcorn with the rental.
One of those coupon books you can buy from a Boy Scout.
Yes.
I won't be able to get it, so I'm pretty sure I still owe Blockbuster $35 for not rewinding stuff. So.
It's your fault that they went under, Steve. It's all your fault.
My $35.
I'm pretty sure you can expect a check in the mail for $35, honestly.
They're like, our books are off $35. Shut the whole company down.
Close the doors. We're done. All right. Here we go. We wrote Karen. For all that we are able to endure, for all the adversity we are able to adapt in the face of, we are all of us fragile creatures. How thin a thread does each of our lives hang by? And when that thread is in danger of being cut, there are many who dispense with all manner of their humanities. We rejoin our heroes as they are already in the fringes of the Umbrawood, this vast old forest that covers the northern expanse of the kingdom of Vykaril, right up to and including the standing stones that form the remnants of Ginden's wall. This part of the forest that surrounds the kingdom of Vykaril is old and ancient. It has nothing on the trees and the life that exists beyond Ginden's wall. But here in Vykaril, this is the oldest untouched portion of land. But even here, tenacious Vykarilians have made their homes for centuries. But here, recently, they have faced trouble unlike any that they have ever seen before. A plague has struck the Umberwood, a plague known as the Bloodmouth Plague. Our heroes have pointed themselves headlong into this trouble and have traveled for several days, now finding deceased animals lying here and there, replacing the sounds of the forest that they had heard as they traveled before. Now, they travel in an eerie silence. That is, until they have settled down to camp for the evening. And the moment that the sun disappeared behind the lowest of the undergrowth on the horizon, something strange began. All of the animals would make their noises, the typical noise that these animals would make individually throughout the course of a day. These animals all make this noise all at once for a moment and then fall silent. And then they all rise in volume again for a moment and fall silent. This rhythmic cacophony continues all through the evening until the first rays of sunlight begin to color the sky for the new day. Each one of you, if you would, please describe to me how your character is handling the difficult night of rest.
Poorly, to say the least. Watch was uneventful. said afterward, there wasn't a lick of sleep to be had. The damn birds. Everything else I can get past. It's the damn birds. But now, I'm making something to eat. Readying myself for the day. Maybe fletched an extra arrow or two.
I think the thing that I could liken it to is every time you get close to sleep, you have that feeling that you're falling 20 stories and then you hit the ground and you wake up. That's kind of what it's like. You kind of hit that almost, almost into the deep sleep, and then boom, you're back awake due to probably something not related to the dream at all. But in this case, it would be the sounds. I probably would liken it to that feeling. So yes, to mirror what Tord said, not much rest to be had. I believe Eder probably tried to, over his watch, enchant a couple more arrows, but that didn't go. No concentration to be had either. So it was a bust.
Don't you have a spell or something that can put someone to sleep?
No, not particularly. Nothing that would get you through this nonsense. I'm sorry.
I think for Dane, it's been an entirely sleepless night. Not really wanting to have to come here and experience this, and then all the recent events of his personal life. I think the early evening found him trying to figure the best way to pen a letter home that sounded upbeat and hopeful, and trying to write those words in this environment is extremely daunting. And it's the barely picked at meal. It's the crumpled pieces of parchment from the letters that didn't make it. A couple of snapped quills that the possession of Sir John from trying to write and having these horrendous noises go off and press that quill too hard and it just snaps. And so I think Dane has completely given up on any idea of sleep right now, and so has been busying himself, sort of studying the environment, the sky, walking the edge of camp, the things that make you feel useful but aren't actually useful.
Ari's in the same boat as everyone else. This is an uncomfortable night. There's not much sleep going on. She's probably slightly more ornery than normal, though it's hard to tell these days because, it's just the way it's turning out. So she's probably snapping considerably at Sir John, Sir Tord, to a certain extent, even Sir Dane and Lord Eddard. She probably would have spent most of the evening as well, like the night, tossing and turning, but then when finally giving up on having a restful sleep, would have started to just over and over shoot arrows from this longbow that she has, getting practice with it, striking at a tree. And probably by morning, there's this, I'd say it's not like a living tree. It would have been like an old, like a dead tree that was ready to fall over already. By the time the morning comes, you can see that there's quite a bit of area of the trunk which has been totally obliterated from arrows shooting into it, being pulled out, shooting back into it, being pulled out. So it's definitely, there's been a lot of a lot of action this poor tree has had this evening, but not in a good way.
As Tord finishes preparing whatever rations you have probably brought with you, you are starting to realize that in the next day or two that you're going to be out of rations, that you're going to have to likely forage for food out here. So, as you break camp and make ready to travel for the day, is there anything that you're saying or doing before you head out? Okay. Camp is broken quietly. Each of you, either due to feeling cantankerous or too tired, you manage to. I think you brought your horses, if I remember correctly. So you managed to, kind of throw your bedrolls back over the saddle of the horses and head back out again. And as you're making your way through this dark, gnarled, old world forest, you're coming across an increasing number of wildlife. All of it deceased. All of it has pustules and open sores. Most of them have blood coming out of their mouths, their eyes even. And partway through the day, probably around the time that you would be stopping for your midday meal, stretch your legs, if all of you would please roll perception checks for me. Okay. 16, 7, 19, okay. 14. Okay. Dane and Ari. It's about the time that some of you are starting to dismount out of your saddles and things, that both of you notice kind of far away from where you are, maybe about 50, 60 yards or so further ahead, you see something kind of snapping in the wind. And you can tell from this distance that the coloration on it is not something that is natural. It looks like it's probably some kind of dyed fabric.
Does it look brightly colored or just colored, like sort of banner versus clothing?
Yeah, it looks like it's probably like a blue, maybe like a navy, like a dark blue, but it looks like it's been soiled and is dirty and maybe a little faded by the sun.
I guess dismounting a horse, I'll gesture towards it as I walk that direction. Well, I don't imagine that the deer were wearing this.
Dane, let me look. You stay here. And she would go forward because she's kind of looking. She's been looking kind of concerned at both Dane and Eddard for the last couple of days as we've gotten into this area where all the animals are all dead. She doesn't want him going any closer than he needs to be, so she'll go first.
Okay. You approach and kind of get closer. It takes a moment to kind of get close enough and at the right angle that you can really get a better idea of what you're kind of looking at. But as you get closer, you realize that it is a tabard that you're seeing, and it is the colors of the livery of people who serve the House of Warrington. And you can realize as you get closer that this tabard is kind of like caught up in some branches of a thick undergrowth or a bush or what have you, but that the person that this tabard is connected to is kind of almost like head first down inside of this bush, somewhat suspended by like the stronger branches of this kind of gathering of plants, and is dead. You can see parts of his body have been eaten. Some of his flesh is already starting to kind of decay and rot away. And even though a fair bit of his face is no longer intact, you can see the signs of the bloodmouth plague on him. You also see a leather scroll case that is affixed to his belt on his back.
Very carefully, she's going to take that scroll case. This is kind of what she was expecting to see after seeing the riderless horse earlier. So we want to know what missives this guy was carrying before he departed from this mortal coil.
So your guess is that this is definitely the rider. The livery looks the same. It matches, has the same, kind of level of wear on it. And this individual, something about the way that his clothing and stuff is kind of draped around his body, it looks like he probably dressed in haste. And you would normally expect for a messenger to have, a number of missives on them, probably even within one scroll case, and would also likely be sealed. You only find one missive in this scroll case, and it is not sealed. It is very kind of quickly scrawled, and looks almost like it was just all but like shoved inside of this scroll case.
I will read it. I will open and read it.
Okay. It is written in the common tongue, and it says, Warrington has been overrun with pestilence and disease. The number of dead now outnumbers the living. The dead. By the gods, how unnerving are the songs of the dead that keep us awake at night. Please, send more clergy of the virtuous divinity with haste to wash us clean of this plight. Lady Crawahar of Warrington. I'll put her name here in our chat.
Well, I'll put it back into the tube. I'm going to carry it back to the group. But I will also, I just want to check to see if there is anything else. I'm not... I don't want to touch the body too much at this point, but I'd like to see if maybe there was something else in a pocket or a pouch.
So again, normally whenever somebody would be traveling away from the city, you would expect to find some kind of belt pouch. It may not contain very much money, to dissuade, robbery, but you would expect, some kind of personal possessions that they would carry, perhaps even just a bedroll or something like that in case they were caught out on the road at night. This individual has none of those things. It basically, even his clothing underneath his tabard looks like it's not the clean, clothing that you would expect to find for a royal messenger. This looks like they put on a shirt that had the stains from the day before, that kind of thing. Maybe even what they were sleeping in, and headed out very, very quickly.
I'll, yeah, I don't want to stay around this body too long. It's a little unnerving, if you will. So she'll go back to the group. She will hand, looking at the three of them and knowing, she wants to hand that to Eddard, and she kind of changes her mind and instead will pass it to Tord.
I'll read it.
Perhaps surprisingly, it says the exact same thing as when Ari read it.
Yeah, I mean, I figured as much, but I'll read it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, without being from Warrenton, I don't know that the name would mean anything more to you. If anything, it probably meant more to Ari because she actually spent some time in Warrenton.
Who is this? I've never heard the name. Lady. Kawaha.
So, yeah, House Krawahar, Dane, not Dane, Eddard, at the very least.
I was about to say, am I close enough to hear this?
I would imagine so.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, Ari kind of traipsing off to go inspect this, body and coming back, I would imagine would draw your attention at the very least.
Oh yeah, for sure, because Ari wanted to give it to him first, but realizing, yes, that's why she passed it to Tord instead. So.
Okay. So yeah, at the very least, Eddard would know, and possibly Ari as well, that House Krawahar is kind of the house of a lesser noblewoman who directly serves House Warrenton in the city of Warrenton. And she's not necessarily the favorite of the people, but she is a lot more reasonable of a ruler than the Baron of Warrenton was. Largely just because the Baron of Warrenton was a younger man and had kind of a hot head. She's probably in her 40s or 50s, and is a lot more level-headed than he was.
So, forgive me if I'm misunderstanding. Is this the lady of House Warrenton, or does she just work closely together with them?
So yeah, she's another noble house. She's just, they don't have, enough lands of their own to be considered their own barony. And so instead they swear fealty to, the barony of Warrenton itself.
I got you. So I would have definitely known the name, and probably my family had worked close with the house. My family wasn't noble or anything, but they tended the library. So, I mean, at least rubbed elbows. So what else? Would I know anything further about her that Ari wouldn't know?
So you would know that her house is, as far as the actual, relatives of the bloodline, it was her husband, and their daughter. And her daughter is probably around your age, give or take. And she was kind of one of those girls that was not content to simply sit and read in the library or what have you. She was always, practicing her swordsmanship and things like that, even if her mother disapproved.
I have to think, how far behind was this rider behind Sir Wyrus, seeing as he made it out to Malrich and a lesser nobility didn't? how many people? So this is a really long time ago when we were back in Warrington for the the plague breaking out. What was the situation? It was like just getting started.
Whenever y'all came back to Warrington,
correct.
It was
we had left and come back.
Yeah, the city had been abandoned by the time that y'all came back. Pretty much the only people left alive that you found were the priest that was in the cathedral in the city, and the people that were kind of directly following him.
Yeah. So my question, I think that what Eddard is trying to put together is, we're just now finding this note. How long has this writer been dead in the woods? You know, like was this around the time that everybody was leaving? Yeah. So.
Yeah, your guess would be probably at least a month or so, if not 2 to 3. Yeah.
Well, it seems like our help from the virtuous divinity arrived in the form of the father. Unfortunate.
I don't think this got to where it was meant to be. So they were probably wanting more help than just him. I could see why, because and she'll mutter off in Elvish.
I just can't understand. They prayed to the virtuous divinity. They wanted the virtuous divinity the whole time. The father was the one exacerbating the plague.
Sometimes it seems like there's information we're not necessarily privy to.
How far are we from Warrington right now?
You're still probably 2, maybe 3 days out, going through the woods like this.
Well, we're getting kind of low on rations.
I'm not much of a forager, but I can help where help is needed. Though I don't know there's much to find out here.
If we find some sort of game in decent condition, I think I should be able to remove any malady from the flesh for our consumption.
I do have the ability to feed us for a few days.
Feed us how?
Well, by food, you'd eat this berry and you'd be fine for the whole day. One berry.
Look, I've got nothing against the Elvish cuisine, but the minimalist approach, it really, I like eating.
I know you do. I was just saying it because it would be okay for once if you're like, just stop eating this tainted meat for one moment and just have a berry and you'd be fine for the entire day. And we could carry on and we wouldn't have to sit here and watch you go off into the woods and worry about whether or not you're going to come back with anything.
The meat's not tainted. I just said I can purify it. The meat's fine.
Ugh.
You worry about me going into the woods when I take a shade.
Well, that's a different story. I think you might fall in.
That is your paranoia. I've been hunting game since I was a wee lad.
Well, that's fine, but all the game around here is dead. Or have you not noticed it? I mean, it's been singing all night, keeping us awake with its horrific noises. Just saying. I can feed you.
Magic. I am magic. I have magic powers.
So do I. I can make it not hungry.
I want to eat meat.
Fine. You don't have to have any. But I can feed the rest of you, so we're not going to die.
Dane's a sword now. He doesn't need to eat.
I still need to eat.
I was wrong.
What was that? Can you say it a bit louder for those in the back?
Not for nothing. And I realize that Tensions are kind of high, and it's a pretty terrible situation. But if we could save the argument of berries versus bear meat for another time,
He's just so stubborn. Fine, let's. No sense sticking around here.
Sleeping. It's funny.
Fine. I'll eat the berry.
She glares at him. But then when hands him the berry, when she turns away, you can see that she smiles.
Does the person who has the plague have to be alive for someone to get it from them? Or can you get it from a dead body? And I kind of like look over the direction that Ari just came from.
She's still got blood on her hands, and she's got like the berries. Like, here, guys, you want some?
She's like, there's bright red berries. She's just nomming down. They're just like running down her chin.
She's pulling a Denethor.
Bear meat sounds great.
Nobody likes that for Denethor. I like Peter Jackson for a lot of things that don't like it for that part.
I'm not a doctor or anything, but my guess is that the animals in the vicinity caught it because they ate.
Can we make some sort of medicine check to see if, like, maybe like his clothes are stained because like they vomit, or
Well, he was
like,
half eaten.
Well, we've
I
heard
didn't
a lot
say
of, at this point we've heard a lot of rumors and hearsay and probably some actual facts coming out about this. Separating them might be difficult, but what's the general like assumption? You get it from people who are living and dead?
Yeah, it seems to be incredibly fast moving, very resilient. Like it's hard to not catch it, it seems like. And it's incredibly fatal. As far as how it's spread, there doesn't seem to be a concise explanation. Some people say that it's in the meat. Some people say that it's in the air. Some people are saying that it's in the water. Some people say it comes from handling the dead bodies. There's, like you said, there's so much speculation at this point. It's difficult, without examining it yourself and seeing it firsthand, to know exactly what the truth might be.
then I would like to try and examine this body, even though it's been been eaten.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and give me a medicine check. I think it's going to be at disadvantage though because of the state of decomposition of this body.
For sure. Not great. Looking at like a high 9.
9. Okay. So just like Ari was able to tell, without a doubt, this person was infected. You can see, stains on the front of the clothes that look like, there was some kind of, blood that was regurgitated or spit up. You can see that, though, again, all the soft tissue is gone, that you can see that there are, like, bruising and things on parts of the body, and places where it looks like there were pretty painful lesions at the surface of the skin. Again, at this point now kind of dried up and stuff like that. But as far as what of that is potentially contagious, it's really hard to tell right now.
So is it we know for a fact that animals that we've seen riding this far have died from the bloodmouth plague. Like they show all the symptoms of that's what killed them.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So But the animals that we saw weren't all predators, right? There were deer and things that we saw that were.
So most of everything that you have seen thus far has been mainly
Carrion?
carrion eaters, birds, predators that are four-legged carnivores and things of that nature. Yeah, you have found other animals that are not carnivorous animals that are also dead. They're just not in the same quantities.
I'm not a blood mouth specialist, but I would definitely say that eating it would be a faster way to get infected. But that can't be the only way, because otherwise it meant everyone in Warrington were cannibals. In which case there was a much larger problem than we realized.
Unless it was in the livestock.
But my experience with shepherds and stuff, you call that stuff out quickly. Sheep have a condition where when they shit, they get the fecal matter stuck to their tails, and so they used to like cut that piece of the meat off and scar them so it wouldn't grow back. But if they caught that, if it happened, they could die from it. So when they caught that, the shepherds were real quick to get them out of the herd so that they wouldn't contaminate everything else. I would imagine that farmers, would at least be the same way for their cattle and things. So
I was never a farmer.
Well, I wasn't directly. I mean, we had a couple of lambs when I was little and rabbits, really. I guess you can be a rabbit farmer.
I think I would like that.
They're nice and they taste good.
They're so cute. And they do taste great.
Hey, and the great thing is if you're proficient at skinning them, they're just as cute after as they were before. And you still get to eat them.
As I'm getting hungry.
You eat this berry.
It wasn't filling, but I'm nourished.
I'll eat a berry. What does it feel like?
Small, it's round.
It's a lempus berry.
It's the best tasting berry you have ever had.
Thank you, Art.
I don't know. Knowing the source, I'd say it's probably a little bitter. Just a little.
Bitter berries are pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, it was a great berry. But I'm more of a umami, savory kind of person.
It just yells at you about how much it would prefer to be eaten by an elf the entire time you're chewing.
Well,
So we know what we're running into. We've been there before. But
Honestly, I don't know what we're running into. The last time we were there, it was all but abandoned. I wonder what's there now.
Well, if we get closer, we'll be able to tell before we get to the city, somewhat. One of the things that my father taught me was that the birds that live in the cities are different than the birds that live outside. Different colorations, different calls, even for birds that are the same type. So if we get closer and we start seeing those darker birds, the grays, the silvers, the ones that look like they live in the streets, the cobblestones, if they're outside the city, then that's not good. Is that the direction we're heading? Are we going into Wellington? Is there a reason to go?
we're going to look.
Isn't that kind of like knowing that someone's dead and still going and looking at them? But
I am only going there for an artifact, but we do not have to go to Warrington. This particular artifact, though, is the shield of the House Warrington, left behind by the Baron of Warrington.
I guess that sounds pretty important.
All right, then. So it sounds like plan is to continue heading kind of north by northeast, or no, north by northwest from your current position further towards Warrington, then.
I think the way Edward would put it is if we get too close to Warrington and it seems like really, really, really bad, then we definitely don't have to go if the party does not want to go.
All right. So you press on, continuing through the Umbrawood, signs continuing to worsen. Eventually, throughout the day, you start seeing things like dogs, cats, pigs, goats, things that would certainly be domesticated livestock. Same kind of conditions. You even start finding a few bodies of people, a few more bodies of people. None of them in livery, some of them in groups, some of them with camps that they had set up, and it looks as though they might have perished at camp. The rest of the day is a taxing one. There's a lot of death and disease that you come across, but you don't see another living soul anywhere in sight.
Jeremy, these camps that we're coming across, where the people are like dead inside of them. I'm assuming that like the horses and stuff that would have been with the occasional camp aren't there because the people who were scared by their campmates getting sick took those horses and fled, and that's part of what's been helping spread. Like we're not seeing like horses dead tied to a picket because of how rapidly these people in camp died, right? Like it's
not. That's not a common sight, no. But you might find one or two of them. This seems to be a very fast moving disease. Okay. You press on through the day until it starts to darken in the sky, and you realize before long that night is going to fall, and you're going to probably have to make camp somewhere soon. Is there any kind of particular way that you want to go about doing this? Any kind of thing that you want to try to find to make camp before it becomes dark? Okay.
Is there any like abandoned like leans or like perhaps shepherd's hovels or anything like that that we've passed kind of as the day is waning? Something that we don't even necessarily have to go inside, but something that we post up against.
Yeah, so like probably within the last mile or so, as you were kind of pressing forward, you came to a place that was kind of like a natural valley that kind of stretched, more or less in the direction that you're heading. And as you kind of broke through into that valley, you were able to see ahead on the other side on a rise of the land that there is like the remains of what looks like a watchtower. and you're fairly certain that if you push on, that you could probably get there probably just before or maybe right after nightfall.
It's a good spot, if any.
We won't be the only people that had that idea.
I mean, we can camp out here in the trees if you would like. I'm not gonna fight the
No.
idea.
No, I'm just. I mean, out here, what we run the risk of getting eaten by a bloodmouth bear, and in the tower we run the risk of dying from bloodmouth. So, hey, who am I to say?
We can turn back. We don't have to carry on. It's just not going to get any better.
No, for the first time in my life, I agree with Sir John. I don't appreciate the idea and look forward to the idea of having to fight something that I can't punch in the face.
Dane, I've seen you cripple a witch in a matter of 12 seconds and bring her completely subdued to her knees, and she controls things you cannot see. I've been thinking about it, and I think I have an idea. To bring everyone at some level of peace. Once we get all ready to lay down, I'll let you know. It'll work out. We'll be fine.
So, up to the tower then. I kind of like look back towards Eddard and Ari.
Anything that may dampen the sound of the night seems like a better deal than what we had going on before.
I agree.
Okay. You press on towards where you saw this outpost kind of set on the side of this hill, a small kind of rocky outcropping. And as you excuse me, as you press nearer, you can see that that it is getting dark before you're actually going to reach before you're going to reach the outpost. And as the light starts to fade all around you, and you hear that choir beginning to kick back up again of the noises of the night, you realize that you can see firelight flickering inside the base of the ruined outpost, and you think you can smell the smell of wood smoke.
Well, Dane, if you were a gambling man, you would have made easy money.
I don't think this bodes well for us.
It might be someone who's still alive, trying to fight this thing just like we are.
I imagine they're still alive. Or the tower's caught fire.
In theory, if they've experienced anything, they could be very paranoid.
Or they could have the plague and just not be dead yet. Or think that we have the plague and we're not dead yet.
I can go over and find out. I can't get the plague. At least to my knowledge.
Perhaps I should come with you if it's somebody from Warrenton. Maybe that'll help calm them.
Well, then, I mean, if that's all the same, can we just all go up there rather than just some of us staying here in the dark with bloodmouth bears?
Yes, I think what's to lose? What's to lose?
We would all lose to a bloodmouth bear, probably.
I'm. Mm-hmm.
Bloodmouth bears are the toughest. It's like an apex predator of apex predators. I don't know, actually. I have no idea. They're probably sick. Probably like lethargic.
At first, I thought you were on my side. Now I feel like you're making fun of me.
I'm just examining what you were saying. Bloodmouth bears are terrifying. Let's go over there.
Jeremy, I'm not there. Apex predator. Check.
By the way, what is the smell on the air since we've gotten into this area?
So it didn't start out all that noticeable, but throughout the day today, it has definitely become oppressive. I would say that there's likely more than one time that each of you has probably retched. And if you had eaten anything more than a single berry, you might have emptied the contents of your stomach.
Well, I think that when the smell started to get bad, Eddard probably took his cloak, put the hood up, and kind of bundled it and wrapped it around his face like a makeshift scarf, just to kind of keep from smelling so much, and also hopefully to prevent from getting it by air if that's how it is transmitted.
Okay. So the five of you ride up to the wherever you're going to kind of stop up short of this tower. As you approach the outpost, you can see a figure that kind of moves into the open doorway at the base of this tower, kind of backlit by the firelight that's inside the outpost. This individual kind of watches you on the last bit of your approach. They do have a sword at their belt, which their hand is now resting upon the pommel of, and they seem to be effectively just waiting to figure out what your intentions might be.
I think Eddard will probably take the lead here as we kind of walk up. Eddard will eye the figure. If they haven't reached for their weapon or drawn their weapon, I'll get as close as I can to try and make out if it's a human or if it's an elf or an Angorian or if they look like a knight or stuff like that.
So yeah, you're again, he has his sword in its scabbard. He has his hand kind of on the hilt of the sword, but has not drawn it as of yet. As you kind of move closer, within reasonable distance, you can see that he appears to be a half-elven man. He is kind of a dark countenance. His hair is dark, and you can see that he's got quite a bit of stubble. When you're able to kind of catch more of a fuller look at his face, you can see that it has quite a few scars across it. He has the dress and the bearing of potentially maybe a road knight. He definitely seems to be of a martial disposition. And he seems cautious. He doesn't seem intent on threatening, at least not yet.
Gotcha. So Eddard would kind of hold his hands out away from him. Well met, Lord Eddard Bainton Pendrake, Baron of Ravenflelt. Who do I have the pleasure of speaking with?
You're Baron, all the way out here. Why, we,
A long way from home, but not so much when I think about it.
I see. His eyes kind of dart back towards the interior of the watchtower. Well, what are you doing out this way? Lord. He kind of like remembers and then kind of like bows.
Well, there's no need for that. Eddard is fine. As for me and my group, we are heading north. I used to live in Warrenton. I was raised in Warrenton, born and raised. And when the plague hit, I kind of got out as fast as I could. I guess that's the best way to put it. We're headed north to Gindaswall.
You're headed north to Gendon's wall. And you headed to Warrenton?
Yes, it would appear my travels have harkened me back to my homeland, so in I must go, unless the danger is too far and too perilous.
Well, my lord, I hate to be the one to bear the news, but the plague has taken over the city. Warrenton is lost.
I believe the last time we were there, the plague had already taken over, and it had been all but abandoned. So,
See. Well, forgive my rough manners. My name is Darren, and well, if you are indeed intent on heading deeper north, then perhaps you should join us here at our camp and rest. It's unnerving being out in these woods at night, and I think the more the merrier.
there's more.
Aye. And he kind of again looks back over his shoulder.
I don't travel alone. You see the folks behind me, these are my companions. And he kind of beckons them.
He kind of looks over those of you who, kind of show yourselves, make yourselves known. He kind of nods. Well, you seem like a capable lot. I suppose I should expect as much traveling with a baron. Well,
I wasn't always a baron.
I see. Well, I'm afraid that there's not much that we can offer as far as, meals, but you're welcome to share our fire and the safety of the walls.
A night's rest away from the howling as much as possible would suffice, my friend.
He kind of eyes, the rest of the group a little warily with his hand still kind of on the hilt of his sword. And then you can see he kind of reluctantly takes his hand off and returns unceremoniously back inside.
I think Eddard would kind of step aside the doorway and just hold his hand out after you, waiting for the party to go first.
Ari will go in first.
Tord will go in.
I think Dane walks up, stops to hold the door for Eddard to let him go in, and then, or hold the doorway rather, and then we'll follow in last.
You all enter, and you can find that the base of this kind of overlook tower is maybe 20 foot in diameter. It's not an overly large place. Against one of the exterior walls, almost completely opposite from the doorway is a spiraling stone staircase that kind of hugs the interior of the wall, leading upwards to, well, what was left of the rest of this tower. It doesn't look like there's much past where the second floor probably was. You can see, the starlight, the glow of the moons kind of through the opening in the top of the stairwell. Looks like quite a bit of, grass and things has kind of taken over here on the floor level, growing up between the stones that form the floor here. And dominating in the middle of it, in the kind of dedicated fire pit that's set into the floor, is a rather large fire. It's, I don't know, probably 3 or 4 feet high at its center. And there are 2 other individuals who are seated around the fire. You see both of them are human. There's an older male whose hair and beard have long turned completely white, and he wears full armor and what looks to be like the coloration and livery of the House Warrington. The woman that accompanies him has very dark hair and is very pretty, but Eddard, you would recognize this woman. This woman is Lady Reba Krawahar. She is the daughter of the woman who penned the missive that you have in your possession. The half-elf gestures towards open space beside the fire. Well, please take a seat if you'd like. Make yourselves comfortable.
What about the older gentleman? Would I recognize him?
Potentially. Let's see. Make a history roll.
27.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. You know that his name is Sir Merrick Besnawa. He is a knight who has served House Krawahar for many, many years. He's kind of a little bit of a hard ass. Not many people that like him overly much, but he does embody a lot about the knightly code of the old ways.
So you said that the daughter of Lady Krawahar was similar in age to me.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So would it be fair to assume that we spent a decent, some sort of amount of time together growing up as companions or accomplices or anything like that?
Yeah, it's very possible.
The quick
she didn't
backtrack to accomplice. It was quickly to accomplice.
I met acquaintance, but the word
Sure.
left.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense with Eddard. Yeah, I think.
Listen, Eddard was a good boy.
I think that you at least kind of passed each other in the hallways of the palace and things like that. She didn't spend a lot of time in the library. Again, she preferred kind of practicing her swordsmanship. But I think she probably looks at you, and there is a small amount of that kind of confused recognition. Like, you can tell she thinks she might recognize you, but you've changed quite a bit since you left. For one, you have an eye patch now. And you're a lot nicer dressed than you were the last time that she probably saw you. But she doesn't say anything. She actually seems almost like she's trying to not draw attention to herself. And this older gentleman is hovering is the wrong word, but he's making sure that he's basically seated as close to her as possible.
So Darren, keep fine company. I know you. And he turns, I think he turns, instead of saying, when he says, I know you, I think he turns to Merrick instead of Reba, because he kind of reads the room a bit. Sir Merrick.
Aye. That's my name. How do you know me, lad?
Eddard Bainton.
Bainton, Eddard Bainton. The librarians.
Miriam and
Definitely.
Alistair. Yes, sir.
Yes, I remember you. It's been some time. You've well, you've changed.
Yes. To say the least. What keeps the two of you so close to Warrington? Shouldn't you be fleeing with the rest of everybody else?
He kind of exchanges a look with the young woman, almost kind of an admonishment, like, see, I told you. And she, again, kind of almost like pretends like he's not looking at her. Merrick speaks up. I was ordered, against my better judgment, to return to Warrington. Apparently, there's unfinished business there, though I can't imagine it's quite so important as to risk death.
Well, who sent you on this mission, if you don't mind me asking?
He kind of clears his throat, kind of again leveling a look at the young woman that's seating beside him, before he kind of like goes about stirring like the root stew or whatever it is that he's eating. She finally kind of looks over at him. Yes, it was my idea, but it's necessary. Told you, Sir Merrick.
Last I was there, everybody had abandoned the city. I too was going to return, me and my companions.
There's no one alive. Why would you be interested in returning to the city?
Well, like you said, you have your mission, and I think I have mine as well.
Did you forget books in the library, or?
Yeah, something like that.
Well,
I think that Eddard would probably. So who had the missive last?
Well, I gave it to Tord, so it depends on what he did with it.
I still have it.
Okay. Just go ahead, Jeremy. I'm sorry. I was just trying to figure.
oh no, you're good. Well, maybe if we're both headed to Warrington, maybe we could travel together. And the old man kind of again clears his throat.
Yes, I do believe that would be beneficial to both of us, though I do not know if we are actually going in. I did tell my companions that if it looked too dire, that we would just head on north where we had originally planned on going.
I'm gonna back Eddard up in like a mirrored fashion that Sir Merrick is, in accordance to like Reba. So like I feel like he's kind of hawking over, and I kind of recognize how this is going, and it's like, you know what? No, We have some power here too.
I think actually Ari is also mimicking that as well. So maybe if you're on one side, she's on the other. So it's like 2 to 1.
Dane's
Gets
sitting
this-
by the soup.
Dane is sitting on one of these makeshift seats, poking logs with a stick, internally complaining about the fact that now there's 2 groups of people that want to go to Warrington. Great.
The half elf speaks up and he says, "You know, I agreed that I would take them as far as the gates of the city, but I'm not going in. So I've already seen enough. Once they are safely through the gate, as I said, I'm going to give them 12 hours to do whatever it is that they need to do, and then I'm gone."
It's fair. So you admit it out, and you're back, just like me. Must be important. Eddard's kind of prying, but he's kind of trying to see what's going on here. Like, Eddard's mission came from the Baron of Warrington. I'm assuming that probably their mission came from the Baron of Crawhar, or the Lady Crawhar, or probably. But I'm just trying to put the pieces together, but I don't want to force it. He's being subtle. Eddard is probably a lot more cautious with his words than I am. So
Sure.
just game wise.
Okay, absolutely. So you could roll an insight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That works for me.
Okay, we'll see how that pans out.
You know, it's funny. Insight is one of my lesser proficient skills, and I rolled a natural 20 for 23.
Okay. Through the, next bit of conversation, the pleasantries that are exchanged, the little bit of barbing that you're kind of doing with your questioning, inadvertently, to anyone else that's, paying attention or listening, more than likely you don't pick up on this, but Eddard, you're fairly certain that they intend on going after the shield.
I see.
Would I hear them talking about the shield since Ari and I are right there?
So I don't think they said anything about it.
Yeah, you would have to roll an insight as well, because it's not that it's not quite that direct.
Gotcha.
Of a mention of it.
I'm not.
If you'd like to make
one, then
okay.
I don't think Tor would go that way.
I would love to make a roll because Ari is very being that she's also from Warrington, she may or may not know these people as well as Eddard does, but having basically followed Eddard around his entire childhood is a little bit something's off and she wants to know what's going on. So she's definitely paying attention to when Eddard's prying and trying very hard not to say something herself.
Okay.
But I will roll that insight. Oh, I rolled a
Please
19. So that is a 26.
Good grief. Okay. So Ari, you are kind of picking up on the same kind of thing. It might take you a little longer to piece together the fact that it's about the shield, just because that is such a human concern that it's probably not like the first thing that Ari would jump to. But, there's a specific question that Eddard kind of phrases a particular way that finally kind of clues you into that last little piece of the puzzle. And you two now are fairly certain that that's what is happening here.
And if Eddard gets that kind of hint from the look on Ari's face, let's see. I'll just use a cantrip to send a message to Ari mentally. And I want her to know that I think they're after the shield, and I think they're going to retrieve the shield and give it to the Krawheart.
Is this something that Ari can talk back to you? Like, can she reply back in her head, or is it just a one-way?
I think if it's message, I think you can send a 25-word response, something like that.
It's not as limited as sending. You can actually just say whatever you want.
I see.
If I've messaged you, I've basically opened the link, and you can say something.
Nice.
Basically, she's going to say, well, what is it you want? Do you want them to have it? Do you want the Baron to have it? You want it.
I want that shield.
Well, there it is then. We must get there first.
I kind of imagine this whole time this mental conversation is going on. Edward's just holding this.
Yeah.
Nori's glaring.
There might be an exchange between the two of them, as this look might linger for a moment too long.
There's a moment where Tord is kind of like, what are we doing, guys? You haven't said anything in a little while now.
Darren, the half-elf, kind of stands up after this kind of awkward pause, this chess game, that's going on, that he's obviously out of his depth. He kind of stands up. Well, I think I'm going to do a check of the perimeter just to make sure that everything is okay. And, all right then. Kind of heads towards the door.
I'd like to join you if you don't mind. Checking the perimeter.
Certainly, of course.
And I'll
Sir
follow
Tord
him out.
is my finest knight.
That's good to know. You know your way with the blade? You look like it.
You kill him with this part.
He kind of
He's
like
good with
laughs.
swords. He's just terrible about keeping shields in one piece.
They do their job. They stop me from getting hurt. Horrifically.
And whenever Dane says the word shield, is anybody alerted in the room? Because I know it's on my mind.
Okay, hang on a second.
Glad to see you're picking up what I'm putting down.
I'm smelling what you're stepping
That was an elegant way of putting that.
That sounds very much like a southern saying. So the girl does not have any kind of outward reaction. The elder knight, however, definitely kind of winces visibly, and then kind of stops and looks around to see if anybody noticed.
I got you. Tord, if you wouldn't mind, the scroll case, please.
Oh, right. Here.
Thank you. And Eddard will kind of stand up from the conversation. If you'll excuse me, I'll set up for the night.
Of course. They kind of, both nod.
And I follow Sir Darren.
Yeah. Sir Darren kind of walks outside. He takes, 4 or 5 paces away from the front door and kind of puts his hands on his hips and kind of like looks up at the sky and exhales for a moment. You can hear that that god-awful noise of the animals kind of rising in call and then fading back down. It happens probably 2 to 3 times before the half-elf kind of shakes his head. I don't know which noise I prefer. Well, I guess we should get to it then. He turns around and starts to kind of make his way into more or less a circuit kind of around the base of the tower, kind of with his hand on his sword, peering out into the darkness, stopping every once in a while and kind of listening. So, you've been in the employ of your baron for very long?
Sometime, yeah. Hard to say exactly how long. A few months. They're part of a year.
Well, have you been to Warrenton?
I have.
It's a lot to take. Condition it's in. One time it was
It was nice
city.
the first time I had been there. Not as great the second time. I'm sure it's kind of at a similar state.
Well, if you've been there since the outbreak of the plague, then I would assume so.
Yeah. Wasn't ideal. What about you? Why are you here? You're a knight? Are you a knight, a road knight? Do you have fealty to a lord?
I am a road knight, yes. I actually answer to Baneshiel in the north of Ginden's Wall. When news of the outbreak spread, I came because, well, to put it frankly, I seem to be immune to the disease, and I have the ability to cure it, at least for a few people a day.
I can do that as well. Do the elves suffer greatly from this affliction?
He shakes his head. Not a one. It hasn't made it past Ginden's Wall as far as we can tell.
Do you worry you'll bring it back with you?
He kind of like slows his stride a little, kind of looks down. No, I don't. I think this is a problem in the human lands because it is specifically targeting the kingdom itself. I think that this plague is magical.
What leads you to believe that? Just the restriction of it within the kingdom of Vykaril?
That's part of it. The fact that Ginden's Wall seems to be able to hold it at bay, keep it from coming through, as it were. But something more to it than that. It moves with a malice that I've never known. A disease. It's just... I fear the work of a witch behind this. And I don't mean witch in the way that the humans throw that word around. I mean an actual dark witch.
In days such as these, there is plenty of those who would follow a darker path.
There's rumor that is also spreading. The dead are doing more than simply singing at night now. There are some rumors that they may be animating.
Do you believe it?
I haven't seen it yet, but
I mean, it's difficult to discount things nowadays.
What times we would live to see war-ravaged lands, a plague that kills us and brings us back to life in undeath. Huh.
You know, there's a lot of talk going on amongst my people. There has been for several decades now that the kingdom of Vykaril may not stand for very much longer. It seems intent on tearing itself apart.
It may outlive. Humans are explosive in nature. Nothing they do is worth doing unless it's dramatic.
Perhaps. Only time will tell, I suppose.
You work for Benchio.
Yes, when he needs me.
Have you spoke with him recently?
It's been 2 weeks past.
Ariana, my companion, I believe she is also acquainted with Benchio in some manner. I'm not completely familiar, but
Well, I suppose that makes sense if she's an elf working on human lands. That would stand to reason. She also sworn to fealty to your baron.
to be honest, I'm not completely sure.
Very well. I suppose that also makes a deal of sense.
They have been acquainted for a long time. The kind of lines of fealty and servitude are overridden by lines of friendship and companionship, so it's hard to say.
Tord, while you're talking to this man, there's been something strange that's kind of playing at your peripheral vision. You think you see movement kind of out of the corner of your eye, but when you turn your eye in that direction, you don't see anything that's causing movement. You don't see anything that seems to be throwing the kind of shadow play that you're witnessing. And it's only after this happens to you a couple of times that you realize that every time that you think you see that, it seems to be coming from the place, the location of where the half-elf's shadow is cast.
Can I roll like a perception or an investigation and
Yes.
try and like deduce?
Yeah, you can roll perception. It will be at disadvantage.
Not great, but not bad. With a +4, I'm sitting at a total of 14.
Okay. So the reason that this is kind of difficult to pinpoint or spot is every time that you kind of look directly in its direction, it's not doing it. But if you're kind of just looking out of the side of your eye, just kind of using just your peripheral, the movements of his shadow do not match the movements of his body. His shadow almost looks like it's kind of dancing behind him.
Have I heard of anything like this? Is this witchcraft I'm aware of?
You could roll an Arcana or Nature.
Actually, do I trust what he's saying to me?
Or you could roll an Insight.
I think that'd probably be more apt.
Okay.
Wow. terrible. Total of 2.
You aren't entirely certain whether he is being honest and open with you or not. He seems to be. He seems to be discussing things in a very frank and open manner, but it's hard to tell. And especially now that you see the behavior of his shadow, there may be more than a little bit of doubt that's kind of creeping into the corner of your mind.
So I think like casually Tord will be resting his hand on his sword hilt as they're kind of doing the perimeter, but I don't think there's anything more I can do to sleuth him out.
Okay. You continue your conversation with him. You continue the perimeter kind of walk around the base of the tower. He seems to genuinely be, looking in places that might be able to hide someone, or he'll stop in a place that looks like it could be a, an accessible approach to the base of the tower, and kind of peers off into the darkness for a little bit. But eventually he'll finish the circuit and kind of stand outside for a couple more minutes, finishing the last bit of conversation that you're having before kind of exhaling and then turning and heading back into the tower.
I think I would have headed inside before he did the exhale.
Sure.
Sitting next to Ari, if she's not occupied in the conversation.
There's something weird about that man's shadow, but he knows Benchio. Works for him occasionally. Have you ever seen him before?
I don't believe I do or have. What do you mean his shadow's weird?
It was hard to see. It looked fine when you were looking at it, but when you weren't, it would dance. It was odd. But I've seen too many odd things lately, too.
No, when Tord says that, does that mean anything to Ari?
You can roll an Arcana or Nature.
Oh my goodness, my dice love me tonight. That'll be a dirty 20.
Okay. Yeah, you have heard of this. You may even know someone who has this kind of affliction's probably not quite the right word, but you know that there are rangers sometimes who, through circumstance, through blood, they have a stronger tie to the Feywild, the natural kind of plane that elves are reportedly from, and sometimes they have residual effects, and a dancing shadow is one of these reported effects of a Fey wanderer ranger.
Sounds like
and it's probably only confirmed further if you pass close to him. He actually strongly smells of nutmeg, which is sometimes another indicator.
interesting. What you're saying sounds like he might have the gift, as we call it.
The gift.
Well, it's hard to explain, but just a tie that not every elf has. Just some have a stronger one. Sounds like he does. It's not inherently bad or good. It's just a thing.
I mean, I can curl my tongue, but
Exactly.
My sisters can't do that.
Is that because your connection to wherever orcs come from is stronger?
I think it's because my brain knows how to use a muscle in my mouth that they don't know how to use. And I guess that is a gift.
It's not the same thing, but
Well, you have to understand. You're not really telling me that, what does it do? I told you what mine does. Watch.
how dare you stick your tongue out at me?
I'm just showing you.
You put it away. It's not the same thing. You can do some silly trick. It's anyway, I can't explain it. You've seen it yourself.
It's got a weird shadow.
Exactly.
Your shadow's not weird. You don't have the gift.
I don't have the gift, no.
Do you know anyone with a gift?
I've known a couple.
Were they your friends?
Well, one was.
No, she wasn't. You don't have friends. Ah.
Ari would probably, at this point, just look hurt and angry, like, that was rude.
Just kidding. I'm your friend, Ari.
Yeah, whatever. I think she turns her shoulder to you, as if she's done with this conversation.
While Tord and Darren had moved outside, was there any further conversation inside with Sir Mayark and Reba? No? Okay. So I think then, if there's nothing else that is going to kind of transpire with conversation through the evening, you're able to set a watch if you'd like. Eat the meager root stew that they're having, or further good berries if Ari is providing, and you're able to finally get a full night's sleep. Again, the noise is not completely blocked out, but it is muffled a lot further than sleeping kind of on the bedroll. And I think that's where we're going to take our break. So we're going to take 10 minutes, go to the bathroom, refill your drinks, smoke them if you got them, kiss your spouse, etc., etc. Yeah, come back in about 10 minutes, and we will finish up with the second part of what we have planned for tonight's episode, Beneath the Banner's Shadow. didn't switch. Now it switched. Hello, everyone. Surprise! That was not as easy of a transition as I was hoping that would be. I don't know what happened, but we're back. Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully, everyone is having a grand old time this evening, and hopefully you all have fun with what we have in store for the second half of episode session, whatever you want to call it, 37 of Beneath the Banner's Shadow. This one is called A Bleak and Unpleasant Land. I'm sure you can all see why. All right. So, where we last left our intrepid adventurers, they were all huddled down inside the ruins of an old outpost, kind of watchtower, somewhat deep into the Umbra Wood at this point, where they had found a trio of people who were camping in the base of this ruined tower, one of which is the daughter of a lesser noblewoman, and a man who appears to be serving as her bodyguard, and a half-elven individual who seems to be serving as their guide, perhaps also another type of bodyguard. And he's a little strange. He seems to be maybe touched a little bit by the world of the Fae. Something strange and odd about his shadow that Tord happened to notice. You have bedded down and managed to eat a meager meal, but you were, more importantly, able to sleep. Again, the noise of the animals of the forest's corpses rising as one and then falling continues throughout the night, although thankfully the stone tower has provided a little bit of a reprieve from it, and you managed to get some rest. So, as you're setting out in the morning, it seems as though your paths have converged with this trio that you have found. Is there anything that you want to say or do specifically before you all head further towards Warrenton?
I think I would probably call a group huddle. Mostly, Ed just wants to see if there's a moment where we can get together away from everybody else. He wants to let everybody know what exactly he thinks is going on. Well, him and Ari, what we've already talked about. So he kind of gets everybody in a huddle, and he's like, listen, those two are not here on some meager mission. It doesn't seem. I have reason to believe that they're here for the same reason I'm here. They're here for the shield of House Warrenton. However, I don't think they're going to return it to Wyrus. I think that they're going to return it to, the name escapes me. Lady Kralhar. To be fair, that's exactly what I was going to do. I was not going to give the shield back to Wyrus myself. I was going to keep it for myself. He was too cowardly to come here and get it for himself, so I don't see why he should have it. Eddard says very matter-of-factly.
What is the value of the shield? What does it do? Does it solidify a position? What's the value?
Well, frankly, blood is blood, after all. But the shield is symbolic. I mean, this is a house. This is a shield bearer's house shield. He left behind an important artifact.
So it's the shield.
It is the shield. Without this, he has his blood, but what else? Will his people follow him?
So we sneak into Warrenton, break into the castle, take the shield.
I just worry about the two of them. I don't know what they're playing at. I think I know, but I can't be for certain. Maybe they intend to give it back to Wyrus.
What good would that do them?
It certainly wouldn't do their house any good, that's for sure. Could I reread the scroll from the body that we found earlier?
Yes, absolutely.
I kind of missed what exactly was trying to be portrayed.
It says, Warrenton has been overrun with pestilence and disease. The number of dead now outnumbers the living. The dead. By the gods, how unnerving are the songs of the dead that keep us awake at night. Please send more clergy of the virtuous divinity with haste to wash us clean of this plight. Lady Crowahar of Warrenton.
So what Eddard is thinking, I was kind of trying to put together some way we could use this letter in our favor. Certainly they don't know about the letter, nor the well-being of probably the Lady Crowahar herself. So anybody have any ideas?
You don't think that it would have been her mother that sent her back after the shield? Or
That's exactly what I think.
but, I'm sorry, maybe I missed something that you just said they didn't know the well-being of the lady. But isn't the lady your mom?
That's true. However, going by the letter, the last location of her mom was in Warrenton, but she and the knight made it out.
Right. But the knight's been out there for some time. So if the letter got sent and then she and her mom and the knight and their butler and their chair carriers like Sir John have escaped and are now somewhere to become aware of the shield being in Warrenton by talking to that other Lord Wyrus, right? So if they caught wind of it, then that would make sense that she sent her daughter back to get it, right?
Perhaps I'm reading too far into the letter. Like I said,
But I just think we've been so busy with everything and what we've done. I don't think we grasp how much time hasn't actually passed.
it's a fair point.
The letter was going away from Warrenton, which makes me think that maybe the lady was actually still in Warrenton when she wrote it.
Right, but if the letter was written, let's say, on the 1st, and today is the 20th, she could have left Warrenton any time in between there. Right? Like, hey, I'm trying to look all super cool and religious, please send help. Oh crap, this isn't working. Time to go. And that mindset strikes me a lot, very similar to some of the people we've met. Like, I need to look good. I don't want to die. Well, that didn't work out. So now how else do I get power? Oh yeah, this shield. But that sounds dangerous. I'll send my kid.
It's fair.
No, I'm not saying that's the case. I mean, she might be out here on her own, thinking that she can usurp mom, or whatever.
Or there could be a third explanation, like maybe mom sent daughter away to keep her safe while she stayed to try to save Warrenton and didn't make it, and that was her last ditch effort, was to have help come back, and obviously it didn't because the guy died before he could get anywhere. And then doctor's looking for mom, and mom's not around, and maybe she's going back also to find mom and heard about the shield. I don't know.
We could ask her.
Yeah.
If she's speak to her mom recently.
I mean, that would simplify things for sure.
Seems a bit on the nose. By the way, have you spoken with your mother? I have this letter from her that we found off of a courier.
It might give her reason to disembark from this adventure. That's a stretch. I know she'll probably want to push to see her mother if her mother is supposedly in Warrington.
Yes, that was my thought as well.
All right, look, I hope just hang tight for a second. Let me go play the squire. I'd like to go find the young lady and her knight protector.
So yeah, not very difficult to do. The knight is, packing up their belongings, kind of tightening, rolling up their bedrolls or whatnot. And the lady is kind of off to the side, not very far from the knight, but she is speaking with Darund. And as you kind of approach, you overhear what is pretty obvious, like, flirtation. Like she's definitely like flirting with Darund, and he seems to be a little bit oblivious to it.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt the conversation.
Yes.
Lady Kralahar, I was wondering. I know your family is from Warrington. My aunt, Candace Tully, she came here often. How long have you? How do I ask this? How long ago did you leave Warrington? Did you wouldn't happen to know her or seen her when you left, would you?
No, I'm not familiar with that name.
That makes sense.
But as to the question of when I left, it's been month and a half, maybe 2, when things first started getting bad in Warrington. My mother, she didn't give me the choice really. She forced me to travel south, and as reluctant as I might have been, I can see now that it was probably the right decision.
Your family made you travel?
Yes, she sent me south to the capital with with Sir Merrick.
But she didn't come with you.
No,
I'm sorry.
My mother's sense of duty is stronger than Minnie's. I hope that she's all right. And she kind of looks to Darund uneasily, and Darund does not meet her gaze.
So then you're on kind of like a rescue mission for her.
Yes, I hope to find her and some of the people who serve my house, hopefully alive. And I don't know what to find, honestly. I'm not sure what it's going to be like when we arrive. It sounds like it's pretty bad.
Well, it wasn't very good when we were here, yes, a month or so ago.
Well,
I don't remember seeing your mother, but I'm not. I grew up on a farm. I'm much more likely to recognize someone like Sir John or I'm trying to read this guy's name here, Sir Merritt.
Mm-hmm. Sir Merrick.
Yeah. Or him. Like my dad told me stories of the knights, and so those names are more familiar to me than the people who got to go to fancy parties and such.
I wasn't one for the fancy parties. That again,
I
was
look at
something
the
that
sword and I'm like, well, that makes sense.
It was more something of the insistence of my mother.
Is your family's like house inside the city, or did you guys have one of those estates outside?
Well, not to seem like a braggart, but we had both. We had a dwelling inside the walls of the city, and we have our estate outside the walls, but we were staying at the estate within the city walls whenever when people began getting sick.
So you think that if your mother's there, she's probably still in the city, huh?
Well,
That's tough.
I don't wish to speak out of turn, and she kind of like eyes in Eddard's direction. But the Baron of Warrenton fled pretty early on when things looked, well, when things started to turn for the worst.
Yeah.
So my mother decided to stay and try to run things.
Tough job, even before the plague.
Something that she certainly seems to be better fitted for than I.
So, no courtly ambitions on your side, huh? I can understand that.
Well, I would be lying if I didn't say that it was what I was accustomed to. A life of some comfort is certainly better than... Well, she kind of like gestures to, the area around you.
Oh, this isn't so bad. We slept in a lot worse.
Well, it's hard to imagine much worse than this. Corpses everywhere in the woods
An
and
oven once.
noises at night. I'm sorry, you slept in an oven?
Well, we went to bed in beds, but woke up in an oven.
She looks very confused.
Witches. I kind of shrug.
Oh, I see. Yes, I can't say that I've had a lot of dealings with witches, but thankfully.
Yeah, I find most magic users to be, not the ability so much. It's how you use it and what you practice. But yeah, waking up in ovens is definitely worse than waking up here.
I would have to take your word for that. She again kind of shrugs.
You want to get a good laugh out of it, ask Tord about it, Sir Tord. He took it worse than the rest of us.
I'll be sure to avoid it, though.
Really, I'm sorry.
No, I'll be certain to avoid it in conversation with him then.
Oh, no. Bring it up as often as you like. No, that's fine. Really, I just came over here to ask if by chance you had seen my aunt, and I guess secondly, to see if you're about ready to go.
Oh, again, sorry that I hadn't any news about your aunt. But she kind of looks towards Sir Merrick, who kind of stands up, and you can tell it kind of takes a little bit of effort to kind of get up from the position where he's kind of kneeling on the ground. You can kind of hear his knees pop. He stretches. And she kind of looks at him with a question, and he nods. All right, we're ready to go.
I think we are too. So, I guess we'll follow you.
Okay. And it looks like everybody is indeed ready. Darren kind of takes point, and he'll turn northwestward and begin kind of heading back down the hill that you kind of have climbed a little to get up to this outlook. He gives a leash of probably, I don't know, 20, 30 feet, something like that. And as you press forward through the day's travel, it's more of what you have encountered the last several days. The amount of bodies that you come across increases exponentially, and you do, however, begin to see, you get kind of closer to the road that actually kind of leads southward out of Warrenton, and as you get nearer the road, you start to come across people who are still alive, many of which are in pretty bad shape. Many of them are malnourished at the very best. Many more of them are quite obviously sick with the bloodmouth plague. The people that you begin to come anywhere near start to solicit you for help, kind of calling out to you and begging you for anything: food, water, aid. They seem very desperate.
What Eddard has left in his pack for rations, he will hand out to the folks on the road.
Yeah, they will absolutely take it and thank you and give you the blessing of the virtuous divinity as they immediately begin to devour whatever food that you have given them. Several of them start to, seeing this, start to crowd and come from further away, likewise echoing the request for aid.
No, I'm sorry. I'm afraid that's all I've got.
I have no objection to like throwing, some rations or even a water skin, one of my extra water skins, out and away from us to try and pull the crowd, kind of back away from us. And I look over to Eddard. I wouldn't do that again, Eddard. You may have started a very dangerous game.
I'm afraid I can't do it anymore. I don't have any more rations. I've given all of
They
what
don't.
I've got.
They won't understand that.
Yes, I understand, but you do.
Well, just be about your person, because if we don't get here too quickly, they will be about us.
Eddard, with your brief exchange, I need you to make a Constitution saving throw, please.
Oh, jeez.
No pressure. Totally unrelated.
Don't worry, you're not a bear.
There's a Baron.
Baron.
Well, I have a 0 in Constitution for saving, and it was almost an 18, but it is a 2.
That is very close to 18. Kind of the inverse on the D20. Okay. All right. So I'm going to leave this on your doorstep. You do with it what you will. However, through the rest of this day, you are going to feel a fever coming over you. You're going to kind of feel your blood running hot. And it's going to kind of start to come and go in bouts that are going to become increasingly more intense as the day goes on. At some point as well, you might also realize that you are bleeding from your gums. And you have kind of like mouth sores that are developing.
Okay.
Yeah, just pepper that in whenever you'd like.
Sure.
Now that we're in a much more populated area, I am taking very close care to not let too much of my flaking escape, to be mistaken for blood droplets and stuff coming off of me. So yeah, I'm riding very tight to myself.
Okay, you kind of wrap up your forearms or what have you, your hands, maybe even put on, I don't know if you have gauntlets or not, but I don't think that's too difficult to do. Okay. This kind of comes and goes in waves. You'll kind of run into a knot of these refugees that are kind of fleeing, and then you'll go through a stretch of travel where you don't see many of them, at least not alive. You come across more than one individual who is essentially kind of preaching on the side of the road, talking about how the end is nigh. This has been brought on because of the displeasure of the virtuous divinity, because of the people of the North's closeness with the elven ways of living and the old ways and black magic, that kind of nihilistic type stuff. And there's more than one person that seems to be either echoing these sentiments or at least seems to be listening with earnest.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. So as we're riding and getting closer, when we kind of hit a patch of area where there's not so many people, Eddard rides a little closer to Tord, but not too close. And Eddard will use again the cantrip to send a message to Tord as to not alert the rest of the group and the people riding with him that he is not feeling well. And Tord, you can answer.
How long have you been feeling this way? We don't have a lot of time if you're not feeling well.
2, maybe 3 hours.
Right up next to me. I have something that you can have.
Okay, so Eddard rides up next to Tord.
In a reflavor of my lay on hands ability, where I can use 5 points to cure an illness, Tord hands you like a small like water skin.
There's a special remedy in here that I've been working on. I have reason to believe it could at least help you get through the symptoms. Curing you, I'm not sure.
Yeah. Thanks. He smiles, weakly, but when he smiles, you can see his white teeth are kind of tinged red a little. And he takes a swallow from the water skin.
It definitely burns your gums because there's alcohol in it. But you're also getting hit with like pungent onion, as well as like maybe some mushroom in there. And it's like warm in the chest. Like if you were having any shakes, like they have like you feel it hit your like esophagus and it's slow into the stomach, and like as it goes down, it creeps into your shoulders and like down into your arms and like pushes the chill out of your fingertips. And it doesn't feel like ideal in the stomach, but it's easier to focus on that than feeling sick.
Yeah, I think he takes a swig, and after the initial burn of the alcohol, he almost loses it.
No, keep it down. You have to keep it down.
I think he just nods. He's got his cloak up around his mouth.
You did drink a little bit more than I expected you to, but that's on me. We're on horses.
So
I'm not
as
gonna ask what's
this
in that.
as this medicine courses its way through you, Eddard, it takes a little time, but after a while you realize that the fever has subsided. It doesn't seem to be returning. The soreness of your gums and the mouth sores that were starting to form, they're not quite as intense, and they definitely do not seem to be getting any worse.
Eddard just takes a deep breath and into his cloak, of course, and continues riding on.
Okay. At some point, maybe an hour or so after this exchange between Eddard and Tord, you see Darrand has kind of holed up, kind of like at a tree in the woods. He's more or less basically kind of like hiding behind it, kind of leaning up against the tree, kind of somewhat matching the profile of the trunk, and is kind of peering around it just a little bit. And as you start to get closer, he kind of turns around and places a finger to his lips, kind of like motions.
Ari would get off of her horse and would approach him quietly, knowing he's trying to, not be seen. So she's going to, respect that and like to stealthily approach and remain hidden as well.
Okay. Go ahead and roll a stealth check for me, please.
27.
Good grief. Okay. You sneak up beside him, and he kind of like has gone back to watching. And when he turns back around, he kind of starts just a little bit, not realizing that you had gotten as close as you had, without him realizing. And in Elven, in a very quiet, hushed tone, he tells you, says, "There's a group of about 6, maybe 7 men up ahead. They look like a bad lot, and they're moving away from a cottage up ahead, but I don't know what their intentions are."
Sick.
It's hard to tell. They wear cloaks with hoods up.
The cottage, does it look, other than like a farmer's cottage, or is there something maybe about it that would give any indication as to kind of personage would live there? Like if it was a specialist kind of cottage, like I'm going to say tannery, except that would be way huge. But you know what I mean? Like if there was some sort of other thing than that, or it just looks like a cottage?
So from here, you can kind of make out like a partial wall that looks like it has kind of been built, and it looks like there's a cottage kind of within that, but there's quite a bit of like overgrowth and things of that nature. It's difficult to make out much of the building itself. So it's hard to determine what purpose it might serve, but it doesn't look like it doesn't look like it has a lot of land around it. So whatever it is, it's not like a farmer or something like that.
Did you see them go in, or you just watched them come out?
No, I watched each of them in turn hop over the wall, leaving. They were covered with some kind of dust or mud. I don't know. It's strange behavior.
Were they carrying anything?
Tools, it seemed. Some kind of... could have been daggers, but I don't think it was. Too broad for that.
And which direction are they going?
They're headed more kind of northeast.
So away from Warrington?
Yeah, kind of,
Or...
still northward, but the opposite, direction as opposed to Warrington.
Well, I'd rather not have an altercation with them. If we wait till they go, we could maybe search out the place and see what they were doing.
I agree. We should stop the others before they get any closer.
And with that, if he turns, she's already gone. She's...
Already just Batmaned in.
And she would go back to the others and basically just kind of reiterate what's going on, that there was this group of 6 men doing something strange. We're going to wait till they pass and then scout out the place they were.
Yeah. Nobody has anything that they want to say or do in the interim, then, several minutes will pass before, Darren will say, I think it's enough time.
Tord and I will go check it out first.
I can't move like you do. It'll be loud.
You're right. Okay, let's change the plan. Darren and I will go first.
I'll watch.
If I make the signal, come on in, please. If I make it in haste, come on in haste, please.
What's the signal?
She just kind of goes, waves. You can't see that because, my camera's not like this way.
All right, you got it.
Okay. Then Darren and Ari are going to sneak forward once again. Making it back to the kind of tree that he was hiding behind before is not difficult to do whatsoever. Kind of pause there for a moment, looking and listening. And when you don't see or hear anything else, he then kind of moves towards where the corner of this wall kind of disappears into some of the overgrowth. Kind of crouches down by this wall, peering over. Ari, if you move with him, you can peer over the wall and see, the same thing he sees. You see a small cottage that is surrounded by this little half wall. You can see what looks like it might be a simple garden, raising a few food crops that could probably feed the people who live here. Not too far away, you see what looks like a grave site. It has kind of a simple marker that is wooden, but has been very delicately carved with all manner of kind of decorative work. And the grave site itself is covered with purple flowers. But the really strange thing that you notice is that the door and windows that you can see seem to have been bricked up from the outside. You can still see drips of mortar and a few buckets that seem to be set outside.
Does that look like the color of the mud you saw on them before?
Aye, it does.
So they've rolled in something. Someone.
But for what purpose? Why trap someone inside a cottage?
I can think of two reasons. One, they didn't like the person and they just wanted to, get them out of the way and use this as a great example of it. Or two, they're actually trying to wall in some of the sickness. I don't really think it's the second one, not looking at the way they were walking away. My guess, I've hazarded, is that those men were some virtuous divinity fine folk, and they thought they'd found a witch and they locked her up inside, blamed it all on her, this curse. She looks at Darren at this kind of like almost like, oops, did I say too much? Because she hasn't really talked to him yet.
He kind of has, maybe a little bit of a raised eyebrow, but not overly. But he says, "You may not be wrong." And he points. And if you follow where he's indicating, looking around, you see that looks like with this mortar, this mud, painted on the outside of the bricks that have formed the wall in front door, is the symbol of elf friend or witch friend that you saw. The last time you saw it was on the tunic of Ansel, the man who rode with Sir John.
I've seen that sign before, that marking. It's not good. We have to help
Right.
whoever's inside.
But what if it is the latter?
Then we mercifully kill them. Not make them starve like animals.
He raises an eyebrow and kind of nods approvingly. I see you haven't spent too much time around the humans.
Ari looks at him like, what do you mean by that? Knowing that she spent good, few decades of her life at this point away with the humans. Is he, I guess you'd be looking at the inside, like, is he joking or was he being serious?
You think he was just teasing?
Okay. Then she'll let it slide for now.
Should we fetch the others, or is this something that we should try to solve with just the two of us? I imagine that your friend, Sir Tord, would probably be rather handy at taking down a brick wall.
For sure, he would be very good. And if it is the latter and we risk sickness, I don't want to bring too many here who could catch it, if you know what I mean. But I'm fairly certain Tord is immune. I mean, what god-awful bug would want to infect that?
Well, it does not seem to be too choosy of a disease.
But have you seen Tord? Nothing's going to harm him.
I had the pleasure of speaking with him last night, as a matter of fact. He certainly seems to be a tough and discerning knight.
He grows on you. Like a bad fungus. And I think with that, she would disappear back over to get Tord.
Break it down a wall.
They've got the sign of the witch friend on the door.
Oh,
I believe I believe that they've just looked up someone they want to blame for this entire thing, and somebody innocent is inside going to starve to death. But there could be the chance that actually they are sick, so I'm not sure.
Well, listen, I can, in theory, perhaps help a few more people today while my tincture remains. If they are ill, I could perhaps alleviate it.
All right, because the more hands, the merrier. The quicker it'll get done.
Well, let's go.
Tord walks
Okay.
over.
Yeah. You kind of go forward and you see the situation that Ari has kind of laid out. You see a small cottage kind of sitting amongst the kind of walled in area. And it seems as though somebody has bricked in the front door and the windows to this cottage.
Should I do the door or should I do the window?
You're muted, Karen.
Ariana is muted.
Sorry. That's okay. I was just babbling away. The door might be... I mean, the door would make it easier for them to get out afterwards, but it would take longer. I mean, the window would at least give them some... I don't know, whatever you want.
I'm gonna call out.
Is there anyone in there? Can you hear me?
You hear a very muffled kind of hello?
Are you okay?
No. We're in some trouble in here. Are you with those men?
No. Are you ill? Are you injured?
Ill, yes. Many of us have caught the sickness.
How many are in there right now?
Me and four others.
Get away from the door.
Tord's gonna try and push down the door.
Okay. Let's get a strength roll.
All right.
You can use athleticism or athletics if you would rather.
I don't even know if I am athletic. Yeah, I'm pretty athletic. Oh Jesus. Total of 27.
So
I have a +8 and I rolled a 19. So
Jord like kind of walks over and looks at the wall for a second, like sticks his hand like in one of the small openings, just kind of straight through the wet mortar, and just gives a one hard pull, and like the majority of the bricks just like topple over forward, kind of scattering and splattering everywhere. The mortars barely even started to set yet. The door's exposed.
All right, I'm gonna do what I can.
so I have a total of 6 uses of this a day.
And you gave
Actually,
Edward
hold on.
one.
5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 52. So actually, I have 10 uses of this a day. 11 uses. I did
Okay.
use one on Eddard. So I have 10 remainder. And I would try to do it effectively so that like I didn't have to recast it on Dane or Eddard. So doing it before they showed up. Just like healing the sick of their illness.
Okay. So you're going into the cottage?
Yeah.
Okay. Inside the cottage, you find what looks like it was a home, but also looks like it might have been serving as like a hospital. Something that was taking care of the sick. When you enter, you see some like poultice making devices and herbs and things like that kind of set around the interior of the cottage. But what you see more of are a variety of carved and painted toys that seem to be kind of scattered all over the place. On the windowsill, you see a lot of like tin knights that are kind of like sitting on in a row. You see, many wooden boats and ducks and horses and all kinds of things of that nature. Wood carving tools, paints, and there's what looks like temporary cots or beds that have been set up around the room. You see that there are a total of 8 of these kind of cots or rows. All of them are occupied with the forms of children of varying ages. And then sitting in a chair with a blanket draped over him in the corner near the cold and dark fireplace is a very old looking elf, probably more half elf, judging by the fact that he has a beard. He has undoubted signs of bloodmouth plague. The corners of his white beard are caked with red and with sick. He has visible lesions on his face, as do all of the children. If you kind of take an assessment of the room, you will find that only half of the children still seem to be breathing. The other 4 seem like they have perished. And this elf he's very, very sick, and he's very, very weak. It doesn't even look like he could get out of the chair if he wanted to.
So like I said, I'm going to enter the room, like take stock of the situation. I'm going to walk over to this man.
Please, no. The children, please, the children first.
We both can pour faster than one.
And I'll give him some of the tincture to cure him, and then I will pump him with a cure wounds.
Okay. He definitely seems to feel a little better, but it's not that instant. He's again, the
Yeah,
legion
he
seem
probably
as
still
if
has to,
they
like, recover.
right, exactly. They seem like that maybe he doesn't hurt quite as bad. Maybe he has a little bit of energy back, but he still looks pretty bad.
I will continue down the row of children that I find breathing, and I can't pump them all with the cure wounds, but I could use like the remainder of my tincture to cure their illnesses.
Okay. So you move through the children, finding those who are still alive. The stench in this cottage is overpowering, but you manage to feed your tincture to these 4 children who are still breathing, and again, it's going to take time for them to fully recover, but they seem to, within probably within an hour or more, they seem to be recovering, no longer fighting the symptoms of this horrible disease. The old man, after a while, has kind of scrambled up to his feet, kind of dropping the blanket in the chair that he's been sitting in. And he says, "Thank you, sir. Thank you. Is there something I can get for you? Some
My
tea,
friend,
perhaps?"
you have witnessed the flames of Avernus and the chills of the depths of hell. Rest now. I will work.
Tord is gonna try and like wrap the dead children respectively and like kind of relay to Ari like I want to do like a cairn or something. So I don't know if we have time to bury them, but something that will prevent them from being like eaten by something.
Yeah, when it becomes clear that that's kind of your intention, the old man will kind of speak up. He says, There is a grave outside the house. My wife is buried there. She would be honored if you would lay them beside her."
It will be done.
But I would do that.
Okay. It takes some time, but you can certainly, and again, like this is ground that has been, somewhat tilled and things repeatedly over the years to plant, simple garden, vegetables and things of that nature. And again, this grave that has these purple flowers growing upon it, it doesn't seem like this grave was dug all that long ago. At most, maybe a month or so.
After completing the task, I would go inside to speak with the gentleman.
Do you have silver? I can provide my own, but it would mean more coming from a home that was relevant to the lives that were lost.
Silver, yes. Yes, one moment.
And he kind of moves to the back, and he brings you a set of tools that have been beautifully engraved, woodworking tools. And it's kind of in a leather satchel that very much looks like it's got like elven embroidery on the leather. And he hands you this bundle, and as you open it, you can see again like it's a series of woodworking tools that all seem to be made of silver.
Please take these.
Taking those, I would use it to cast ceremony as a funeral rite. Laying the silver in the ground, kind of alongside. I don't imagine I took the time to bury them. I feel like stacking stones over them is probably the best that I could do.
Sure.
But I buried this tool set in the ground and kind of like pour some salt, like loosely, not in like a thick stream, but loosely over the ground, not to salt it, but to, in a sense, bless it. And these individuals cannot be brought back as undead.
Nice. Okay. The old man has kind of positioned himself, near the the front door or what have you, and he kind of watches you go about this. And just kind of, stands there solemnly, without much to say or add to what you do. The 4 children who are starting to come around are complaining about, being hungry. And so very quickly the old man then kind of returns inside and starts to try to rebuild the fire in the hearth and tries to start making some food to feed them.
I'm sorry I waylaid us, I would say, approaching a group. That took longer than I imagined. We may continue.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead.
I think as at one point while maybe Tord was preparing the bodies outside, Ari would have asked the man about the men. Who are those men?
He kind of shakes his head. He kind of gives a low muttered elven curse. Not the kind of curse that would be truly foul, but kind of curse that, a sweet grandparent might utter. He says, "Terribly misguided. View everything that is different than our understanding of the world as being evil. These children did nothing wrong. They were merely sickened. The parents died, not able to take care of them, so they came here. I did my best until I too was no longer able to fight it off with the remedies that my wife left behind. May her soul rest."
Where are they from? Warrington? Those men.
I'm not sure where they call home. They're too cowardly to show their faces. But they are certainly local. They labeled my wife as a witch and, well, they killed her. Blamed her for this disease. Whenever we were busy making as much medicine to combat it as we could.
He kind of gestures towards like the implements of poultice making and things on the shelves of the house.
Sadly, with her gone, her knowledge was lost with her. My expertise is in making useless trinkets.
I am sorry for your loss, truly. But these children, they'll have need of your trinkets.
Perhaps someday, but I think it will be a while before there are children who see the value of such things again. They have had a great length of darkness that has been cast over them.
And so much more the need for light.
You are of the corrode, are you not?
I am.
It's been
And
some
you?
time since I have seen a moon elf. Oh, I have elven blood in my veins, it's true. And he kind of like flicks his ears that are very kind of like sagging with age. Oh. But I know not the origins of it, though I have looked. In my younger days I did travel north of Ginden's Wall, but the elves are an elusive people, as I'm sure you well know.
Your name, sir?
I am Phaleon. And you are?
I'm Ariana.
It's very nice to meet you.
Those men. Will they be back, you reckon?
I do not know. I fear that even if they are not, there will be others. Perhaps I have stayed here too long. Perhaps it is time to move further southward. Or maybe I can go northward. Live out the rest of my days amongst the elves.
And the children?
Well, they can
Where
come
will
with
they
me
go?
if they wish, but it is ultimately their decision. They must choose whether they want to leave their homes behind or not.
How old are the children? Are we talking like from the ages
They-
of like 4 to 12? Or...
Probably a little older than that. Probably between 7 to 14, somewhere around there.
Okay. Come. There is a person I think you should meet first before you make your decision.
He kind of looks curious for a moment.
Very well.
And he'll follow.
Yeah, and I want to take him, I guess, like to where the rest are, to the Reba.
Mm-hmm.
Rawawa. What's her name?
Okay.
Because these are really like the nobility of this land. I mean, Eddard and her, and I want to have them know, especially Reba, that what's happening here about the men, how they walled these people in just because they were sick and all this stuff. And I'm hoping to, well, it's up to them. But I want her to know his plight and what's happening now, and that he's probably not safe. And the children are probably not safe. And what is she going to do about it?
Okay. Yeah, she she hears you kind of plead your case, as it were. The entire time that you're kind of telling this, I imagine the old man is behind you, kind of quietly trying to downplay how bad that you're, making it sound. And Reba listens, and kind of you can see like the look on her face is she's troubled by what you're telling her, and the fact that these events have played out, especially in lands that she is arguably kind of has a hand in being in charge of. When you ask, what she's going to do about it, she kind of looks surprised. I'm not certain what I could do about it. If we can find the men responsible, I will certainly make them pay. But I don't have shelter to offer these children, or for you, sir. I'm terribly sorry, but as of now, I don't know that I even have a home. I could promise you some form of protection if you come southward with me. Perhaps maybe Darren, and she kind of turns to Darren, maybe you could guide him north when you're done taking us to Warrington? Darren kind of looks, and he kind of almost kind of rolls his shoulders like, well, that might be a little more than I bargained for, but he doesn't discount it outright. Perhaps, he kind of eventually says. I'm not certain what else you would want me to do. She kind of looks back at you, Ari.
Well, if you're looking to lead here or to take over, you've got to think of these things.
Take over? I mean, what gives you the idea that I would want to take over?
Well, is that not what you're here for?
No, I told you I've come to find out what's going on with my mother. To find her if I can.
Eddard kind of looks at her.
And I think it's maybe in the heat of the moment, Ari's forgotten that we weren't telling them this. And she just looks at Eddard and she's like, what did I just say? Oh no. Well, you're the family around here, right? That you're one of the nobility or something. Isn't that right, Eddard? The house. And she's stumbling here, trying to recover. Isn't it your duty to look after your folk?
I mean, to a degree, yes, of course it is. But what am I to do? I have no one to command. I have no money to ease the suffering. I certainly don't have magic to rend myself immune. I don't know what I could do. I could make promises, I suppose, but
Can I see the state of the elf from where I'm standing? What's he looking like? I know he had drinking the tincture and gotten the cure wounds from Tord. Does it look like he's healing quickly?
Not healing
Hard to
quickly.
say.
No. You definitely still see the effects of what the disease has kind of done outwardly to him. but he seems to be up and moving around the way that you might expect of somebody his age.
And what about the kids? The kids look like
they're all kind of like still huddled back in the door of the cottage.
Sir. Eddard kind of gets down off his horse and steps up a little bit.
You're speaking to me?
What is your name?
I'm Phalion.
Eddard bows. Lord Eddard Bainton Pendrake, Baron of Ravenfleet.
Oh, forgive me.
And he kind of pushes himself into a bow.
My lord.
It is some weeks' travel, perhaps. But if you head south into the west, into Ravenfleet, Eddard puts his hand in his pouch and removes 10 gold pieces and places them in the hand of the half-elf. You make sure that you and those children make it there safe, and my people will take care of you.
Well, this is very generous of you, sir. Where did you say you were from again? Baron of
Ravenfleet, but Warrenton is my home.
Well, I think I can get the children as far as the capital, and then perhaps from there I can secure transportation to get us the rest of the way.
I believe so. I believe you could catch a carriage. Hopefully this is enough.
Oh, yes, sir. I believe it will be. Thank you.
Eddard bows to him, and without another word, he just kind of turns around and walks away.
The old man kind of, carefully places the coins kind of deep inside one of the pockets of the leather apron that he was wearing, and kind of looks to see if there's anything else that somebody needs from him before he's going to turn and head back towards the cottage.
Ari is totally looking at Reba when Eddard introduces himself to this man. She wants to read Reba's face.
She seems maybe a little embarrassed or ashamed maybe that she couldn't make the same kind of offer, or didn't think to make the same kind of offer, however you want to view it. But she kind of falls silent and just watches Eddard give his generosity to this elf. The the elf kind of stops next to Tord, and he moves in close to Tord before kind of throwing his arms wide and embracing you. And he then kind of pulls away and kind of claps your shoulder a couple of times.
Thank you so very much.
It is the least I can do. Arriving late.
You arrived in time to save 4 of them. Go ahead, and me. He kind of raises a bony finger. And me. I am forever in your debt.
No, you're not. We're even.
It is good to know that there are still people out there who care enough for those outside of themselves and for their own gains. Perhaps what they say is not yet true. Perhaps Vykaril can be saved.
The sword of Vykaril does not only heal the country to bloodshed, but some of the strokes heal as well.
I consider
Vykaril.
myself very fortunate.
Vykaril will last. These are not our last days.
I can certainly see that they will not be mine. Thanks to you. Thanks to all of you.
Make sure you make it to the capital.
He nods and turns and begins to make his way back towards the cottage, where you can hear him kind of calling out,
Children, gather your things. We will be leaving very soon. Come.
I think that's where we're going to leave it for tonight. So, that was episode 37. A bleak and unpleasant land. What to say? I love this game. It feels like it's been a long time since we got to play. I don't remember if we missed last. I think we did miss last month. I think that's what happened. But it's good to get back into this, even though the part of the game that we're kind of getting into is kind of dark and dour. Well, I mean, who am I kidding? I guess the entire game's kind of a dark and dour, but you know, par for the course at this point. So, yeah, I love getting the chance to kind of explore this setting and all of the different things that are going on, and all the wheels that are turning, and seeing how all of you interact with them. So, thank you for being such incredible players, and for, as always, bringing such humanity and realism to your characters. Yeah, I'm gonna pass things over to my players so that they can say any parting words that they would like, and we're gonna call it an evening. So we're gonna start in reverse order with Steve.
One of the things I love about this game is it's enjoyable even when you as a player don't end up doing much, when you just sort of get to sit back and watch, but it's still enjoyable. So I really do enjoy that. It's great session. Yeah, I just hope that we don't miss too many more sessions. Hope we get another early September game in here so that Josh can be with us before he decides to level up his family. Other than that, I'm gonna go to bed here shortly because I've got court all day tomorrow.
Yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun, man.
No.
So we're not going to keep you a lot longer, and I appreciate you joining us and hanging in there with us this evening, man. As always. Yeah, I'll float out some dates here in the next day or two and try to see if we can't nail something down in the early part of September. Yeah, I can't believe it's September already. That's fucking crazy. But here we are. So, speaking of fucking crazy, Josh.
Yeah, I really don't know what else to say about this game that hasn't already been said over 37 sessions on these intros and outros. after 4 years, you'd think maybe the game would have gotten stale or the material would have gotten stale, but between all of us and you, we all pull each other back in with the way we play and with the way you DM. So it never gets stale, and we can play for another 4 years. And I think like it still wouldn't get stale, but all things must come to an end at some point. But hopefully that's not anywhere soon. Always a pleasure. I would like to mirror what Dane said too. Dane in real life, that's his name. Even when you don't get to take front and center, it's still enjoyable to watch. It's just the way the characters interact with the world and the way you interact with the characters is just top notch every time. So thank you everybody for a great game. And I hope I get to, like I'll say, squeeze in another one before the end of September. But if I don't, then I'll be watching for sure. So.
Excellent. And thank you, Josh. I appreciate that, man. I am thrilled that all of you seem to still be enjoying the campaign that much. That means a ton to me, because it is. I mean, it's a massive feat that we've managed to keep this game going for this long. And taking into account that everybody seems to still be having a good time and still discovering things about each other's characters and about the setting that seems, surprising and engaging. That's that's huge. That's monumental to me. So thank you. Once again, congratulations. If we don't get the chance to meet again before the edition, like I said, I'm very happy for you guys, and super happy that you're on board and playing in the game, man. So thank you for being here.
Thank you kindly. I appreciate
Absolutely.
it.
All right, next we have Karen. You're muted.
It's been a problem all game, apparently. I had something I was going to say, but then I forgot all about what I was going to say. But I don't know. This is a great game, and I love playing it. Oh, it was because that's what it was. Sorry. This game is one of those rare few games that I love to play because it's like watching a movie in my head. So I think that's part of why, like, it doesn't matter if you're in the scene or not in the scene. It's like you're still watching the scene, and it's like amazing. I love this game because of that, and I look forward to it every month. And here's to 4 more years.
Well, it's certainly possible. Another 4 years, maybe we'll check that second bullet point off the list. So
Probably not.
probably not. Wishful thinking. No. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Again, like all of you have said, it's all been said before. This game is just so much fun, and the great thing is, again, there's so much stuff about all of your characters and the things that are how they tie into the setting and the world that we haven't even touched on or explored fully yet. There's still a lot of questions, I know. So I'm really eager to get to the end of this campaign and be able to actually look back on all of it as one completed piece. Yeah, I'm really stoked to see what that's going to look like in its completion. So, speaking of really stoked to see what it looks like in its completion, last but certainly not least, we have Baron.
I don't really know how to take that, but
You're welcome.
To kind of piggyback on that, I know we've been saying like, oh my gosh, this could last forever, but I really do want to see like the end game stuff, because I feel like no matter what we're doing now, it's like, fuck, there are lasting after effects of everything now. And so like I also want to see like there's stuff that we haven't seen. We haven't seen the dwarves, if there are dwarves left. We haven't seen a dragon. I'm assuming there's a dragon. This is Arthurian myth. There's a lot of things that we haven't seen. Like, I'm ready to get through this song because the ending is probably going to be crazy. So I played Tord. I had a great time, as I always do. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, who knows? My list of potential notes for this setting are very long. We've definitely done a few things off of that list, but there's still a lot. So who knows where this wild ride is going to take us? Because it certainly has not been the path or the journey that I had envisioned in the beginning. So it's been much, much better, to be fair. Yeah, anybody who mentioned a channel or anything like that, you should be able to find it in the description of this video. Please do take the time to go check them out and support what they do. They're all very lovely people, very creative people, and they deserve it. They deserve all the affection and love and attention and support that you can throw their way. So please do take the time. Speaking of that, I will be adding the link that Josh has supplied to me to the part of the description that has his information. Please take the time to go check that out. We missed Eli this evening. Eli, brother, love you. Thank you very much for being a part of this game. Sorry that you could not make it this evening. I wish you and your family speedy healing. It's often difficult to weather the storms that life throws your way. So I hope that everybody in your family is able to move past it in a positive way very soon. So, with that being said, everyone who is watching, whether you may have tuned in live with us this evening or you may be watching at some point down the road, thank you. Thank you very, very much for taking the time to watch our little story. If you like the kind of content that you see here on the channel, then subscribe, hit the like button. There's a lot more content. There's over 300 videos, most of which are live plays just like this one. So yeah, share it around, talk about it with your friends. But until next time, may your dice roll high and your snacks always be within reach.